Have you ever felt the weight of something you just can't let go? The ache that lingers in your chest, the knot in your stomach that refuses to untangle, the thoughts that keep looping even when you try to sleep? That weight isn't just in your body, it's in your mind, in your heart, in the very way you see yourself and the world around you. It's heavy and you've been carrying it quietly, sometimes for years, hoping that somehow it will disappear if you ignore it. But the truth is, ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It just burrows deeper. Pain has a way of hiding in the corners of our lives. We try to laugh it off, distract ourselves with work, scroll endlessly, or fill every empty moment with noise. But deep down, we know. We know that there's something unresolved, something unfinished, something we haven't allowed ourselves to truly feel. And that's where the heaviness comes from. That's where life feels muted, where joy seems fleeting, where even accomplishments feel hollow because a part of us is still trapped in what we won't face. You may tell yourself that moving on means forgetting, or that healing means ignoring the past, but that's a lie that society teaches us. Moving on, real moving on, doesn't come from pushing feelings away, it comes from leaning in. It comes from letting yourself sit with the discomfort long enough to understand it, long enough to see it clearly, long enough to discover what it's really trying to tell you, because pain is a messenger, not a punishment. It's trying to show you where you've been stuck, where you've been denied, where you've been pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. Think about the moments when your heart felt like it might break. The betrayals, the losses, the regrets, all of it still has a voice. And the only way to set it free is to let yourself hear it, to give it space, to acknowledge it without shame or judgment. It takes courage, immense courage, to face what we've spent so long avoiding. But that courage is the key to unlocking freedom. Imagine what it would feel like to release the tension that has built up inside you for years, to breathe without the weight pressing down, to finally wake up feeling lighter, even in small ways, and know that you are beginning to reclaim yourself. The human heart is resilient. It can carry unimaginable burdens and still find a way to heal, but it cannot heal if the pain is denied. Every moment spent pretending you're okay when you're not is a moment the burden grows. Every suppressed tear, every avoided memory, every "I'm fine" whispered to yourself is a thread in the cage you've built around your own happiness. And the most remarkable truth is that you don't need permission to open that cage. You don't need anyone's approval to feel what you feel. Your emotions belong to you and they are powerful. When you allow yourself to feel, to truly sit with your hurt, you give yourself the first gift of healing, acknowledgement. You tell your heart, I see you, I hear you, you are real, and your pain matters. There is a reward waiting for you on the other side of this courage. The reward is clarity, the reward is strength. The reward is the quiet, steady confidence that you can face anything because you faced yourself. Every tear, every tremor of fear, every heartbeat that races with anxiety is proof that you are alive, proof that you are capable of transformation. And when you embrace that, when you allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding, something extraordinary happens. The weight begins to shift. It doesn't disappear overnight, but it begins to move. It begins to loosen its grip on your mind, your body, your life. And in that space, healing can finally begin. The path isn't easy. No one ever promised it would be. But there is a strength in facing what frightens you. There is liberation in acknowledging what you've carried alone for too long. And there is profound beauty in discovering that you are bigger than your pain, that your heart is more expansive than your fear, and that the life waiting for you is far richer than the one you've been denying yourself. You can let it go. You can reclaim your energy. You can finally begin to feel the lightness of living unchained. And that first step starts here with the simple, radical act of allowing yourself to feel, to really feel everything you've been carrying. This is your chance to stop running. This is your chance to stop hiding. This is your chance to meet your pain with courage, to meet yourself with compassion, and to finally open the door to the freedom and peace that have been waiting patiently for you all along. Have you ever noticed how fear shows up in the quietest moments? It creeps in when no one is watching, whispering that you're too fragile, too broken, too incapable to face what's inside. It tells you to run, to hide, to distract yourself with noise and busyness. But fear is only powerful if you let it control you. The truth is, the very thing you are afraid to face holds the key to your freedom. The emotions you have been avoiding, the vulnerability you have been denying, these are not weaknesses. They are the doorway to courage, strength, and transformation. Vulnerability is not something to be ashamed of. It is the spark that ignites real life. It is the heartbeat that reminds you that you are human, that you are capable of deep connection, and that your experiences, no matter how painful, can shape you into someone resilient, wise, and alive. Every time you allow yourself to feel without armor, you take back a piece of your own power. You show yourself that you can survive, that you can endure, and that you can emerge stronger. That's the quiet revolution happening inside you, the moment you refuse to hide from your emotions. Courage does not mean you feel no fear. Courage means you move forward even when your chest is tight, even when your mind screams to retreat. Imagine for a moment how your life could shift if you embraced that courage today. What if, instead of numbing your pain, you leaned into it? What if you allowed your grief, your regret, your disappointment to speak its truth fully and without compromise? The liberation in that act is immediate, subtle, but undeniable. You begin to reclaim your life from the shadows where fear and avoidance have held it captive. There is a profound power in naming what you feel. When you identify your emotions with honesty, I am angry, I am heartbroken, I feel lost, you disarm their hold over you. Words give structure to chaos. Words make the invisible visible by acknowledging your feelings. Without judgment, you step into a space of clarity and control. The storm inside becomes navigable. The heaviness begins to lift. You start to see patterns, to understand triggers, to recognize the ways you've been unconsciously repeating old pain. And in that awareness, you find the tools to change, to grow, to heal. Healing is not a passive act. It is not waiting for time to erase the pain. Healing is a deliberate choice. It is a daily commitment to show up for yourself, to honor your experiences, and to refuse to let past hurt dictate the terms of your life. Every moment you choose to face what you feel, you are strengthening your resilience. Every tear you allow yourself to shed, every memory you confront, every fear you meet with openness is an investment in your future self. This is not easy, and it is not quick, but it is the only path to freedom. When you let yourself be vulnerable, you are creating space for authenticity. You are breaking down the walls that have been built to protect a version of you that no longer serves your growth. And in that authenticity, the real magic happens. You begin to feel life in its raw, unfiltered beauty. You discover that joy, peace, and love are not distant rewards for surviving pain. They are available now in the same moments where fear and hurt exist. By leaning into your emotions, you learn that strength is not in avoiding suffering, but in embracing it fully and transforming it into something greater. There is an undeniable rhythm to this process. The fear, the grief, the regret, they rise and then they fall. Each wave carries a lesson, an insight, a chance to reclaim a part of yourself that has been lost. And with each wave you face, you grow stronger, more capable of handling the next. You learn that emotions are not enemies to be defeated, but guides to show you where growth is waiting. You learn that every ache carries wisdom, every tear carries release, and every difficult feeling carries the potential for profound transformation. The reward for embracing vulnerability is not a temporary relief. It is lasting liberation. It is the ability to walk through life without the chains of denial or the weight of suppressed emotion. It is clarity in decision-making, depth in relationships, and peace within your own heart. When you stop fearing your feelings and start feeling them fully, you step into a life defined not by what has happened to you, but by how fully you choose to live in spite of it. The choice is yours, and it is immediate. You can continue to hide, to numb, to run, or you can meet yourself with courage, with honesty, with openness. You can allow your emotions to teach you, to guide you, and to set you free. There is immense power in that choice, and it is available right now in this very moment. The path is not without struggle, but the rewards are immense: strength, freedom, clarity, and a heart that beats in alignment with your truest self. Every step you take toward vulnerability is a step toward reclaiming your life, your joy, and your power. And once you begin, there is no turning back from the life you were meant to live. Every feeling you've resisted carries a message you've been avoiding. Every pang of sadness, every flash of anger, every moment of regret is trying to tell you something essential about yourself. These emotions are not random. They are signals guiding you toward the places within that need attention, care, and understanding. When you learn to listen to them, when you allow yourself to sit with them fully, you begin to unravel the patterns that have kept you stuck. You begin to see where fear has limited you, where old wounds have dictated your choices, and where pretending to be fine has cost you more than you realize. Healing is not about erasing the past or pretending it didn't happen. Healing is about acknowledging the truth of what has occurred and choosing to meet it with courage, awareness, and compassion. When you face your experiences with honesty, you begin to reclaim your power. Pain that was once a weight pressing down on your chest transforms into insight. Anger that once consumed you becomes clarity. Grief that seemed endless becomes a teacher showing you the depth of your capacity to love and endure. Each feeling you face is a step toward reclaiming the life that is rightfully yours. The mind resists this process because it prefers comfort over growth. It prefers numbness to the uncertainty of feeling. But your heart knows something different. It knows that you are meant to live fully, to experience deeply, and to move forward without the chains of unresolved emotion. Every time you choose to confront what is uncomfortable, instead of hiding from it, you expand the boundaries of your strength. You prove to yourself that you are capable of facing the truth. And in that act, you begin to transform your entire existence. Emotions are not obstacles, they are tools. Each moment of discomfort carries within it the possibility of transformation. When you allow yourself to fully feel, you gain insight into your own resilience. You discover that you are far stronger than the circumstances that once seemed insurmountable. You begin to see the patterns in your reactions, the triggers that provoke fear or anger, and the ways you have unconsciously limited yourself. Awareness is power. Understanding your emotions gives you the ability to navigate life with intention rather than reaction. Self-compassion is the secret that turns this process into true healing. Too often, we meet our pain with judgment, blaming ourselves for feeling what we feel, criticizing ourselves for not having been stronger, for not having known better. But compassion changes everything. Compassion is the bridge between suffering and growth. When you approach your own pain with kindness, when you acknowledge that being human means experiencing difficulty, you soften the resistance inside. You give yourself permission to heal, permission to grow, and permission to release what no longer serves you. Letting go is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of courage. Holding on to pain, to regret, to anger, keeps you tethered to the past. It drains your energy, clouds your perception, and limits the possibilities of your future. Release does not mean forgetting. It does not mean erasing the lessons you have learned. It means choosing freedom over attachment, choosing growth over suffering, and choosing life over confinement. The moment you decide to let go is the moment you reclaim the energy that was once consumed by what you cannot change. Every step you take toward feeling, toward compassion, and toward release strengthens your connection to yourself. You begin to trust that you can handle whatever arises. You begin to see that life does not have to be a struggle against your own emotions, but a dance with them. A recognition that each feeling has value, each moment of discomfort carries wisdom, and each release is a doorway to deeper peace. The heart that has learned to embrace its emotions becomes resilient, adaptable, and alive in ways that fear and avoidance never allowed. The journey is not instant. There will be moments of doubt, waves of old pain, and whispers of fear that ask you to retreat. But each moment you choose to remain present with your feelings, each moment you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you solidify your strength. You build a foundation that cannot be shaken by circumstance. You teach yourself that true freedom comes not from ignoring the past, but from fully embracing it, understanding it, and using it as a stepping stone toward the life you were meant to live. This is the path to clarity, strength, and liberation. By leaning into your emotions, you gain insight. By practicing self-compassion, you create space for healing. By letting go of what no longer serves you, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your joy. Every heartbeat, every tear, every honest acknowledgement of what is within you is a testament to your courage. The life waiting for you is not defined by fear, by avoidance, or by the weight of what you carry. It is defined by the choices you make to feel, to heal, and to release. And the moment you step fully into that choice, you step into a freedom that has been waiting for you all along. There is a power in facing what has wounded you, a power that is often hidden until you take that first deliberate step toward it. Pain loses its grip not by avoidance, but by conscious acknowledgement. Each time you name your hurt, Each time you sit with your discomfort instead of fleeing from it, you reclaim a fragment of yourself that has been lost to fear, doubt, or shame. The process is quiet, subtle, almost imperceptible at first, yet it is unstoppable. Like a tide, the strength that comes from embracing your truth grows, sweeping away the debris of old regrets and leaving space for clarity and purpose. Healing is not something that happens outside of you, it is cultivated within. Every emotion you allow yourself to feel fully, every memory you meet with honesty, is a seed planted in fertile soil. Over time, that seed grows into resilience, into wisdom, into the unshakable knowledge that no circumstance, no betrayal, no loss has the power to define you. The human spirit is remarkably adaptable. Pain may bend you, but it cannot break you unless you permit it. And when you refuse to permit it, when you meet it with courage and compassion, you awaken a strength that surprises even yourself. It is natural to want to bypass the discomfort, to rush toward relief, to numb yourself with distractions. But every moment spent running is a moment spent disconnected from your own growth. Every emotion ignored is an opportunity lost to understand who you truly are, what you truly need, and what you are capable of enduring. The path to freedom is not an escape, it is an engagement. Leaning in, feeling fully, naming honestly, and embracing the lessons within each moment of pain allows you to turn what once burdened you into fuel for transformation. Self-awareness is your greatest ally. The more you observe your inner world without judgment, the more insight you gain into your patterns, triggers, and unmet needs. This awareness is not passive, it is active power. It is the ability to see clearly the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. It is the ability to understand that your past experiences, no matter how difficult, do not dictate your future unless you allow them to. Each recognition, each honest confrontation with your own emotions chips away at the walls built from fear and opens the doors to choice, freedom, and authentic living. Releasing is the ultimate act of self-liberation. Holding on to anger, guilt, resentment, or grief may feel justified, but it also chains you to a past that no longer serves you. Letting go is not an act of forgetting. It is an act of reclaiming your energy, of clearing space for growth, for joy, for the life that has always been waiting for you beyond the confines of your own resistance. Release is not weakness, it is courage in motion. It is choosing to live untethered, to live fully, to live as the person you were always meant to be. Every time you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you strengthen the foundation of your inner life. You cultivate resilience that cannot be shaken by circumstance. You create clarity that cannot be clouded by doubt. And you awaken a freedom that no one can take from you. Each emotional encounter, each act of presence with yourself is a step toward a life where joy is not fleeting, where peace is not conditional, and where your potential is not limited by old wounds or unspoken fears. The heart that has learned to embrace its own vulnerability becomes unstoppable. It learns to navigate life with a quiet confidence, a steady assurance that it can withstand storms, face uncertainty, and rise after setbacks. Pain no longer holds the power to define you. It becomes the teacher that guides you toward strength, wisdom, and authenticity. Every scar, every ache, every memory once buried becomes a testament to your courage and a roadmap to your freedom. There is profound beauty in this process. As you lean into what is difficult, as you meet your emotions with honesty and compassion, the weight begins to lift. You find yourself breathing more freely, thinking more clearly, and living more intentionally. You discover that strength is not found in avoidance, but in engagement. That peace is not given, but cultivated. That freedom is not distant, but available the moment you choose to stop resisting and start feeling. This is the life that has been waiting for you all along. The life beyond fear, beyond avoidance, beyond the chains of unprocessed emotion. It is alive with possibility, rich with potential, and vibrant with authenticity. Every moment you step fully into your own emotional truth, you move closer to it. Every feeling faced, every judgment softened, every release embraced brings you nearer to the clarity, strength, and liberation that are your birthright. You are not defined by what has happened to you. You are defined by the courage you summon to feel, to heal, and to release. And in that courage, you discover the boundless, untapped power within yourself, the power to live fully, freely, and without regret. The moment you embrace your emotions fully, you step into a new dimension of your own power. There's nothing more transformative than standing face to face with the truth of what you feel, without excuses, without denial, without fear. Every emotion you have resisted is a doorway. Every feeling you have buried is a key. When you finally allow yourself to access them, you open a space within yourself that was previously blocked by doubt, guilt, and old pain. That space is fertile ground for growth, clarity, and the life you have been longing for. Pain teaches, but only when it is felt. Avoidance prolongs suffering, masks insight, and keeps you bound to patterns that do not serve you. When you stop running, when you stop distracting yourself, when you stop pretending you are okay, you allow your inner truth to surface. And in that truth, you find freedom. You discover the immense resilience that exists within you. You realize that the heart you feared would break is actually capable of bearing the weight of life and transforming it into strength. Acknowledgement is the first step, saying, I see this, I feel this, this is real, is more powerful than any action you have ever taken. It is a declaration of presence, of ownership, of courage. Your emotions are not your enemies. They are signals guiding you toward the areas that need care, attention, and understanding. When you honor them, you reclaim control over your life. You shift from being at the mercy of circumstance to being an active participant in your own healing. Compassion amplifies this process. Treating yourself with kindness in moments of vulnerability is not indulgence. It is essential. It is the bridge between recognizing pain and transforming it. When you forgive yourself for feeling, when you honor the difficulty of your experience without judgment, you create a container for change. You create a space where your heart can mend, where your mind can clear, and where your spirit can rise unencumbered by the shadows of the past. Compassion fuels resilience. Compassion fuels clarity. Compassion fuels freedom. Letting go is the ultimate act of empowerment. Holding on to anger, resentment, or guilt may feel justified in the short term, but it steals energy, clouds judgment, and limits possibility. Releasing is not about erasing what happened. It is about reclaiming your life from the things that no longer serve you. Every emotion you let flow, every attachment you choose to release is a victory. Each release lightens the load you have been carrying, giving you the strength and clarity to step fully into your own life. The process of release also teaches awareness. You begin to see the patterns that kept you trapped. You recognize the ways you allowed fear to dictate your choices. You understand that the past is a teacher, not a ruler. This awareness allows you to make intentional decisions. It allows you to set boundaries, to prioritize your well-being, and to refuse to let old wounds shape your future. Awareness transforms pain into strategy. It transforms suffering into opportunity. It transforms release into power. Resilience grows with each conscious act of emotional engagement. The heart that has been tested and allowed to feel fully becomes unshakable. It learns that no feeling is permanent, that every wave passes, and that strength is built through facing what once frightened you. Each act of courage, each moment of presence with your own truth, reinforces a foundation of inner fortitude that cannot be shaken by circumstance. You discover that your capacity to endure is far greater than you ever imagined. Freedom emerges naturally from this process. When you stop running, when you stop numbing, when you stop pretending, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your joy. You no longer expend precious resources on resisting life or denying yourself. You begin to inhabit your own experience fully, without apology or hesitation. The life that once felt muted or heavy now begins to pulse with possibility. Peace and clarity are no longer distant ideals. They become the natural state of your existence, flowing from the courage you summon to feel, to heal, and to release. Every step you take toward emotional honesty, self-compassion, and release builds momentum. Each recognition, each moment of presence, each act of courage compounds into transformation. You begin to operate from a place of clarity, strength, and authenticity. You realize that your emotions are not obstacles, but allies, that your vulnerability is not weakness, but power, that your willingness to feel, to face, and to let go is the single most profound act of liberation you can give yourself. And in that liberation, you finally understand the limitless potential that has been inside you all along, the potential to live fully, freely, and without fear. The moment you begin to embrace your emotions fully, something inside you shifts. It is subtle at first, a quiet awakening that grows louder with every act of honesty, every moment of self-compassion, every release of what no longer serves you. You start to notice the space that opens when you stop resisting. The heaviness that once pressed on your chest begins to lift. Your mind clears and your heart feels lighter, freer, capable of holding more than you ever imagined. This is not a fleeting sensation. It is the birth of a new way of living, a way defined not by fear or avoidance, but by courage, presence, and clarity. True freedom comes when you stop letting the past dictate the terms of your life. The hurt you have carried, the mistakes you have replayed, the moments you have wished away, all of it loses its power the moment you confront it fully. You realize that you do not have to be defined by what happened to you. You do not have to be limited by what others did, by what you failed to do, or by the pain you endured. You are not your suffering. You are the awareness, the presence, and the courage that rises to meet it. Every act of facing what is real, no matter how uncomfortable, strengthens that awareness, solidifies that presence, and expands that courage. The process of healing becomes unstoppable when you understand this truth. Each feeling you acknowledge, each memory you meet without resistance, each judgment of yourself softened by compassion compounds into resilience. You learn that pain is not an enemy, it is a teacher. Every challenge you have faced, every heartbreak, every loss has been preparing you for this moment. The moment when you finally claim your power, your clarity, and your freedom. The emotions that once controlled you become allies, guiding you toward growth, wisdom, and authenticity. Self-compassion remains the cornerstone of this transformation. The kindness you extend to yourself in moments of vulnerability is not a luxury. It is a necessity. When you allow yourself to feel without criticism, to acknowledge without shame, to embrace without fear, you create a container in which healing can flourish. You give your mind the clarity it needs, your heart the space it craves, and your spirit the freedom it deserves. Compassion transforms struggle into insight, fear into courage, and suffering into strength. Letting go becomes a natural extension of this compassion. You realize that clinging to anger, resentment, or regret only prolongs your suffering. Release is not about erasing the past. It is about reclaiming your energy, your focus, and your joy. Every emotion you let flow, every attachment you choose to release is a declaration of self-empowerment. Each act of letting go lightens the load, making room for clarity, peace, and possibility. You begin to operate from a place of choice rather than reaction, from strength rather than limitation, from freedom rather than captivity. Awareness sharpens with every step you take on this path. You start to see the patterns that once held you in place, the triggers that once provoked fear, and the ways you unconsciously limited yourself. This understanding allows you to respond with intention rather than react with habit. It allows you to set boundaries that honor your well-being, to pursue opportunities that align with your purpose, and to cultivate relationships that nurture rather than drain you. Awareness transforms pain into strategy, suffering into insight, and release into empowerment. Resilience grows quietly, steadily, with each conscious act of emotional engagement. The heart that has faced its own vulnerability becomes unshakable. It learns that every feeling is temporary, that every wave of discomfort passes, and that strength is built through consistent presence and honesty. You realize that the capacity to endure, to rise after setbacks, to meet life with openness, is far greater than you ever imagined. Every acknowledgement of truth, every moment of presence with your emotions, fortifies the foundation of your inner life, preparing you for whatever comes next. Freedom emerges as the natural result of this process. When you stop running, stop numbing, stop denying, you reclaim your life in full. You no longer expend energy on resisting reality or suppressing your own truth. You inhabit your experience fully, deeply, and authentically. Life begins to pulse with clarity, possibility, and purpose. Peace is no longer something to chase. It becomes your natural state. Joy is no longer a fleeting moment. It becomes a constant companion. The The liberation you experience is profound, not because the past has changed, but because your relationship to it has. Every step you take toward feeling, toward compassion, and toward release is a step toward a life defined by your own terms. You learn that emotions are not obstacles but allies, that vulnerability is not weakness but power, and that the courage to face yourself fully is the most potent force you possess. In that courage, in that presence, in that willingness to feel deeply and release intentionally, you awaken the boundless potential within you, the potential to live fully, freely, and without fear. The life waiting for you is rich, vibrant, and unshackled, and it begins the moment you choose to meet yourself with honesty, strength, and love. The moment you commit to feeling fully, you unlock a dimension of life that few ever reach. It is a place where honesty meets courage, where vulnerability meets strength, and where clarity replaces confusion. Every emotion you have faced becomes a stepping stone. Every tear a signal of resilience, every heartbeat a reminder that you are alive, capable, and unbroken. This is the power of embracing your inner truth, an unshakable force that transforms pain into purpose, struggle into insight, and resistance into freedom. There is no shortcut to this power. It requires presence, attention, and the willingness to endure discomfort. Each time you confront a feeling you've long avoided, you expand the boundaries of your own strength. Each time you sit with grief, anger, or regret without judgment, you build a foundation of resilience that no external circumstance can dismantle. Life will continue to present challenges, but the heart that has learned to feel, to face, and to release is capable of navigating them with clarity, stability, and courage. Every emotion you acknowledge holds a lesson. Every moment of discomfort carries guidance. Anger may reveal boundaries that have been crossed. Sadness may show what you truly value. And regret may highlight choices that require attention and learning. When you stop running from these feelings, you transform them from obstacles into teachers. You begin to see that the discomfort is temporary, that insight is lasting, and that growth is inevitable when you refuse to ignore what is real. This realization shifts the way you move through life. You operate with awareness rather than reaction. You respond with intention rather than impulse. You create a space where your decisions are informed not by fear, but by clarity and understanding. Self-compassion amplifies this power. When you treat yourself with the same kindness and patience you would offer a friend, you dissolve the internal barriers that keep you trapped in cycles of shame, guilt, or self-blame. You recognize that being human means experiencing difficulty, and that embracing these moments with care is not indulgence, it is necessity. Compassion allows your heart to soften without losing strength, to acknowledge pain without being consumed by it, and to embrace life without fear of discomfort. It is the bridge that connects the courage to feel with the freedom to live fully. Release is the act that turns understanding into liberation. Every time you let go of resentment, guilt, or attachment to the past, you reclaim energy, clarity, and peace. Releasing does not erase memory or diminish lessons learned. It simply removes the burden of carrying what no longer serves you. With each act of release, you expand your capacity for joy, deepen your emotional resilience, and create a life that is responsive to the present rather than imprisoned by the past. Freedom is the natural outcome of this intentional letting go. Awareness grows as you continue this practice. You begin to notice patterns that previously went unseen. You recognize triggers, habitual reactions, and areas where old pain has dictated your choices. Awareness is not passive observation. It is active power. It allows you to respond to life with intention rather than habit, to make decisions grounded in clarity rather than fear, and to cultivate relationships and environments that support your growth rather than diminish it. Each insight you gain strengthens your sense of agency, proving that you are not at the mercy of circumstance, but an architect of your own experience. Resilience is forged in these moments of presence and honesty. The heart that has faced its own vulnerability becomes unshakable. It learns that every wave of emotion passes, that every challenge carries a lesson, and that every act of courage compounds into strength. Pain loses its authority over you, and clarity becomes your constant companion. You realize that the ability to endure, to adapt, and to rise above adversity has always been within you. It simply required acknowledgement, attention, and action to awaken. This process naturally leads to a profound sense of freedom. The energy once consumed by resisting life, by numbing, by hiding from your own truth, is now available to fuel possibility. Peace is no longer a distant goal. It is the foundation of your daily experience. Joy is no longer conditional. It becomes accessible in every moment where you choose presence over avoidance, courage over fear, and understanding over judgment. The life you have longed for, unshackled from the weight of unprocessed emotion, begins to unfold before you. Every conscious act of feeling, every moment of self-compassion, and every intentional release compounds into transformation. You come to understand that emotions are not limitations, but instruments of insight. Vulnerability is not weakness, but the most potent source of power. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the deliberate choice to act in spite of it. When you embrace these truths, you awaken the boundless potential within yourself, the potential to live fully, freely, and authentically. Every step on this path brings you closer to the life that has always been waiting for you, rich with possibility, alive with clarity, and defined, not by the past, but by the strength, courage, and presence you bring to each moment. When you allow yourself to feel fully, you begin to understand the incredible power of presence. Each emotion, no matter how uncomfortable, is a signal pointing you towards your truth. The sadness that lingers, the anger that surges, the fear that tightens your chest, they're all messages, not enemies. They are guiding you to the places within yourself that have been neglected, the corners of your heart that have been avoided, and the lessons you have been unwilling to learn. Facing these emotions is not easy, but it is the most profound act of courage you can commit to. It is the act that separates those who remain trapped in cycles of pain from those who rise, transformed into freedom. Presence requires honesty. It asks you to name what you feel without embellishment, without minimization, and without excuse. Saying, "I am hurt, I am afraid, or I am angry" is not a sign of weakness. It is a declaration of clarity. Each acknowledgement removes the veil of denial and replaces it with understanding. You start to see the patterns that have controlled your life, the old wounds that dictated your reactions, and the fears that have limited your potential. Awareness is liberating. It allows you to operate from a place of power rather than habit, from intention rather than reaction, and from freedom rather than fear. Self-compassion is the force that transforms this awareness into growth. Meeting your emotions with kindness does not soften your resolve, it strengthens it. When you forgive yourself for feeling, when you honor the difficulty of your experiences, you create a space for true healing. Compassion gives your heart room to expand while teaching it resilience. It reminds you that being human is not about perfection, but about presence. Every act of gentleness toward yourself is an investment in clarity, peace, and the unshakable confidence that you can handle whatever arises. Releasing the past is not a denial of it. It is a reclamation of your life. Holding on to anger, resentment, and regret drains your energy and clouds your perception. When you let go, you reclaim the resources that were being consumed by attachment to what no longer serves you. Release is an act of power, not passivity. It allows you to operate from clarity rather than reaction, to respond rather than retaliate, and to embrace possibility rather than remain confined by old pain. Each conscious act of release is a declaration. Your life belongs to you, not to the weight of your past. Every feeling you face, every act of compassion you extend to yourself, and every attachment you release compounds into resilience. The heart that has endured, acknowledged, and embraced its own vulnerability becomes unshakable. It learns that every wave of discomfort passes, that every challenge is temporary, and that strength is cultivated through presence rather than avoidance. Pain loses its authority over you, and clarity becomes a constant companion. You realize that the ability to endure, to adapt, and to rise is not discovered in comfort, but in courage. The courage to feel, to heal, and to release intentionally. Freedom is the natural consequence of this work. When you stop resisting your truth, stop numbing yourself, and stop hiding from your own heart, you reclaim energy, focus, and clarity. Peace is no longer a distant ideal. It becomes the foundation of your daily existence. Joy is no longer fleeting. It becomes the natural result of choosing presence over avoidance, courage over fear, and understanding over judgment. The life that emerges is vibrant, authentic, and unbound by old limitations. It is alive with possibility, and it begins the moment you step fully into your own emotional truth. The practice of presence, self-compassion, and release also sharpens your insight. You begin to recognize patterns, triggers, and decisions that have unconsciously guided your life. Awareness becomes a tool of empowerment. It allows you to make choices that align with your values, protect your energy, and cultivate relationships and environments that nurture your growth. Insight transforms struggle into strategy, suffering into understanding, and release into mastery over your own experience. Every act of courage, every moment of honesty, and every intentional release compounds into transformation. You come to see that emotions are not obstacles, they are instruments of insight. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is a source of unshakable power. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the deliberate choice to act in spite of it. When you fully embrace these truths, you awaken the boundless potential within yourself, the potential to live freely, fully, and authentically. Each step you take towards your own emotional truth brings you closer to the life you were always meant to live, rich with clarity, resilience, and joy. The life waiting for you is not defined by what has happened to you. It is defined by the strength, presence, and courage you bring to each moment. Every feeling faced, every judgment softened, and every release embraced is a declaration that you are the author of your own experience. You are capable of transformation. You are capable of liberation. You are capable of living fully and freely, unbound by the weight of what no longer serves you. The moment you choose to feel, to heal, and to release is the moment your life begins anew, and the power within you awakens in ways you have always imagined but never fully believed possible. The more you embrace your emotions, the more you realize that feeling is not a vulnerability. It is the source of your power. Every moment you allow yourself to feel fully, without armor or pretense, you awaken a force within that cannot be contained. Pain, fear, grief, and regret are not enemies to fight. They are signals guiding you to the truth of your inner strength. Each emotion you face reveals a layer of resilience, insight, and clarity that has been waiting for your acknowledgement. When you stop resisting, you discover that your capacity to endure, adapt, and grow is far greater than you ever imagined. Strength is born in the space where fear meets courage. It is forged in the moments when you choose to remain present with what frightens you, when you honor what has wounded you, and when you confront the parts of yourself that have been ignored or denied. Every heartbeat that resonates with honesty, every tear that is allowed to flow, every acknowledgement of what is real contributes to an inner fortitude that no external circumstance can diminish. You are not defined by what you have endured, but by the courage you summon to face it fully. Awareness becomes a powerful tool as you continue to engage with your emotions. You begin to notice patterns, triggers, and habitual reactions that once dictated your life unconsciously. This insight allows you to operate with intentionality rather than instinct, to make choices that align with your values, and to cultivate relationships and environments that nurture rather than drain you. Awareness transforms pain into strategy, struggle into clarity, and vulnerability into mastery. Every conscious act of reflection and honesty strengthens your ability to navigate life with purpose and resilience. Compassion toward yourself accelerates transformation. Meeting your own vulnerability with kindness and patience is not indulgence, it is a necessity. When you forgive yourself for feeling, honor the difficulty of your experiences, and soften judgment, you create a container for healing. Compassion allows your heart to expand without losing strength, to acknowledge pain without being consumed by it, and to embrace life without fear of discomfort. It teaches you that being human is not about perfection, but about presence. Every act of gentleness toward yourself compounds into clarity, peace, and unshakable confidence in your ability to face whatever arises. Releasing what no longer serves you is the natural extension of self-compassion and awareness. Letting go of anger, resentment, guilt, or attachment is not about forgetting or erasing the past. It is about reclaiming your life and energy. Every deliberate act of release lightens the load you carry, expands your capacity for joy, and strengthens your focus and clarity. Freedom is born in this space, a freedom that allows you to live fully, make intentional choices, and pursue what matters most without the invisible chains of old pain. Resilience deepens with each act of engagement. The heart that has endured, faced, and embraced vulnerability becomes unshakable. It learns that discomfort is temporary, that challenges are opportunities for growth. And that strength is cultivated through courage and presence rather than avoidance. Every wave of emotion that is met with honesty becomes a step forward, a lesson learned, and a foundation reinforced. Pain loses its authority over you, and clarity becomes a constant companion. You realize that the ability to endure and rise is not discovered in comfort but awakened through deliberate acts of courage and presence. Freedom is the inevitable outcome of this work. When you stop resisting life, stop numbing yourself, and stop denying your own truth, you reclaim energy, clarity, and peace. Joy becomes accessible not as a fleeting reward, but as a natural state of being. The life that emerges is vibrant, authentic, and unbound by limitations imposed by fear, avoidance, or the weight of the past. Each decision you make is informed by presence. Each moment of engagement reinforces your strength, and each act of release expands the possibilities of your future. Every conscious step toward feeling, compassion, and release compounds into transformation. You learn that emotions are not obstacles. They are instruments of insight. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the most potent source of power. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the deliberate choice to act in spite of it. By embracing these truths, you awaken the boundless potential within yourself, the potential to live fully, freely, and authentically. Each act of presence, each choice to honor your inner truth, brings you closer to the life you have always imagined, rich with clarity, resilience, and joy. The life waiting for you is defined not by what has happened to you, but by the courage, presence, and strength you bring to each moment. Every feeling acknowledged, every judgment softened, and every release embraced is a declaration that you are the author of your own experience. You are capable of transformation, capable of liberation, capable of living fully and freely. The moment you choose to feel, to heal, and to release is the moment your life begins anew. And the power within you awakens in ways you have always imagined but never fully believed possible. The truth is that your emotions are not obstacles to be overcome. They are the roadmap to your own liberation. Every moment you feel deeply, every tear you allow to fall, every pang of grief or flash of anger you confront with honesty is a declaration of your strength. These emotions carry information, insight, and guidance. They point you toward what matters most, illuminate where healing is required, and reveal the depths of resilience that have always existed within you. To feel fully is to reclaim your life from the weight of avoidance, denial, and fear. It is to step into the fullness of your humanity, and in doing so, to access a power that no circumstance can ever take away. Pain loses its authority the moment you stop resisting it. Each time you sit with discomfort instead of fleeing, you break the cycle of suppression and reclaim your energy. The grief that once felt unending, the anger that once consumed, and the fear that once paralyzed now serve as teachers, not jailers. Each encounter with your emotions is an opportunity to understand yourself more deeply, to see patterns that once controlled your decisions, and to recognize your capacity to endure and grow. Awareness is liberation. The more present you are with yourself, the more free you become to live on your own terms, unbound by the past and untethered from judgment or self-recrimination. Courage is the fuel that transforms presence into action. It is not the absence of fear, but the decision to engage with it anyway. Every time you choose to acknowledge your feelings instead of suppressing them, every time you confront what has been uncomfortable or frightening, you step into your own strength. Courage compounds. Each act builds on the last, reinforcing your resilience, sharpening your clarity, and expanding the boundaries of what you believe is possible for yourself. You begin to see that the life you've imagined is not only attainable, it is waiting for you on the other side of your willingness to face what is real. Compassion toward yourself is the stabilizer in this process. Meeting vulnerability with kindness does not diminish you, it fortifies you. When you treat yourself with patience and understanding in moments of struggle, you create a space where growth and healing can flourish. You give your heart the room to mend, your mind the clarity to reflect, and your spirit the freedom to rise. Compassion is the bridge that connects the courage to feel with the power to release, and it is the foundation upon which lasting transformation is built. Release is the natural outcome of courage and compassion. Letting go of resentment, guilt, and attachment to what no longer serves you is not an act of denial. It is an act of empowerment. Every emotion, memory, or thought you release frees energy, sharpens focus, and clears the path for clarity, joy, and purposeful living. Release allows you to operate from strength rather than reaction, from awareness rather than fear, and from freedom rather than limitation. Every act of letting go is a declaration. Your life belongs to you, and you are choosing to inhabit it fully. Resilience strengthens as you continue this work. The heart that has faced its own vulnerability and embraced it becomes unshakable. You learn that every wave of emotion passes, that every challenge is temporary, and that the ability to rise is cultivated through consistent presence and honest engagement with yourself. Each act of courage, each acknowledgement of truth, each conscious release builds a foundation that no circumstance can shake. You discover that strength does not come from avoiding discomfort, but from meeting it with clarity, compassion, and resolve. Freedom emerges as the natural result of this journey. When you stop resisting your truth, stop hiding, and stop numbing, you reclaim the energy and clarity that fear once consumed. Joy becomes accessible, not as a fleeting moment, but as the natural state of being. Peace is no longer an ideal to chase, but a foundation upon which your life rests. The life that unfolds when you embrace your emotional truth is vibrant, authentic, and fully alive. Each choice you make becomes infused with clarity, purpose, and the confidence that comes from knowing you are capable of navigating whatever arises. Every step toward presence, compassion, and release compounds into transformation. You begin to understand that emotions are not obstacles, but instruments of insight. Vulnerability is not weakness, but the source of your most profound power. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the deliberate choice to act in spite of it. By living these truths, you awaken the limitless potential within yourself, the potential to live freely, fully, and authentically. Each act of presence, each choice to honor your feelings, each release of what no longer serves you brings you closer to a life rich with clarity, resilience, and joy. The life waiting for you is defined not by what has happened, but by the strength, presence, and courage you bring to each moment. Every feeling met, every judgment softened, every release embraced is a testament to your ability to author your own experience. Transformation is within your reach. Liberation is within your grasp. Living fully, without fear or avoidance, is within your power. The moment you commit to feel, to heal, and to release is the moment your life begins anew, and the untapped potential within you awakens, unstoppable, undeniable, and waiting to be claimed.